morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is that you are listening in to. Thank you for just taking the time to have a look at a little series that we're planning to put on the website at some point regarding dreams and visions and perhaps, open experiences with the Lord. And in Acts 2, we have that lovely promise that God in the last days is going to pour out his Spirit on all flesh. And that as a result, you're going to see God's people prophesying, you're going to be having dreams, and you're going to be having visions. The problem being that not many of us actually are well prepared to be able to deal with the things that we're receiving. And I want to tell you about a little thing that happened to us in our community a few years ago now, when at the same time, just about everybody suddenly would start to have dreams. Sometimes people would be having the same dream on the same night without knowing that the other person was having the same dream, the same experience. And at that point, God said, I want you to start a dream school. And I said to the Lord, well, what would it be? What would it look like? A dream school. And the Lord said, well, start one and you'll see. So you see, it's a learning curve. And I think that most of us dream at one time or another. And I wonder if last night or in the recent nights that you've been sleeping soundly in your bed, did you dream? Did you write it down? Did you wonder whether it was of God or whether it was the pizza that you had for your supper before going to bed? Was it perhaps a nightmare? Was it something that worried you? And in this little series, we're going to be dealing with some of the basic problems, some of the basic questions that people actually have. Now, what we've actually noticed is that there will be different seasons for dreaming. And I've noticed that when I've compared in different nations with the patterns where people dream, we would realise that when God's preparing to do something on the face of the earth, that actually you will see an upsurge in the number of dreams and visions that God's people, and even those who are not yet God's people, actually are receiving. But the big problem is always, well, what exactly do we do about it? Now, I'm not going to promise that I can interpret every dream or understand every vision, but because we were faithful and we began that dream school, we've now, the circle of friends, we've now taught in many different countries and helped many people just to get a few basic tools to help them practically understand their visions and how to help other people interpret theirs. Very few people can do it by themselves, And we tend to do this in community. We tend to do this so we can submit the dream to others. If you like, we do a dream or a vision presbytery so that we can understand and help one another further forward, and so that we can help each one respond appropriately to what God is trying to show them. Now, it's very interesting. Nations are very different, people are very different, but there are some things that you will find that are coming up over and over and over again. And so many people are obliged to look at the New Age today because they've never actually stopped dealing in the interpretation of dreams and visions. And it's always seemed to me it was a bit of a pity that God's people weren't able openly to create that safe and that secure place where people could share something that happens to us all, to share the worries in a lovely atmosphere where people are challenged. They're challenged to respond to what God is saying to them, but they're not embarrassed or humiliated or made to feel small or stupid in any way. This is so important no matter where you might be on the surface of this planet. Let's take some of this territory back from the enemy. And, we've got a few little things that we want to go through in a series. We'll hopefully be doing this not only in English, we're going to try for French and we're going to try for Italian, depending on which language is best for you. And we'll be looking at the things that I find I'm being asked all the time. Why do I dream? How can I be sure that it's God speaking to me? What will I do if I get nightmares? Why do I keep getting nightmares night after night after night? Why do I forget the dreams? What is God trying to say? Will people think I'm stupid if I actually openly confess to this in the church that I go to? What will happen to me? And most of us have all of these worries and a few more. We look at nightmares. We look at patterns of sleep. Most of us you're going to spend about a third of your life actually asleep. And interestingly, of course, God doesn't stop working just because you're asleep. He makes the most of it. We'll talk about what the difference is between having a vision that is entirely symbolic and understanding God's language and the ways trying to relate to you. And what happens when, even though you might be asleep, the angel that you see while you're asleep really is an angel. And what do I do when the next morning I wake up? Am I prepared to respond correctly to what God is saying to me? You know, because we need to take these things seriously. God expects us to be responsible. He's looking for a mature prophetic and apostolic church. Ones that won't just puzzle about these things, but people who will actually seek and seek and seek till they find, and who will accept the very enigmatic and mysterious ways sometimes God speaks to us in our sleep, that they will accept this as a challenge to dig and to go further into the Word of God and to work out, then to respond what God is actually saying to them. You know, and I don't want this to be a series on how to be a really good interpreter of dreams, because we don't want to become like walking dream dictionaries. I thoroughly recommend that you get yourself a good dream dictionary. But don't stop there, because this is only the way into God's presence. It's just like God saying to us, come on in, I've got so much more for you. If you will be my friend, if you will spend that time with me, I'll bring you right into my presence. I don't know about you, I think it's wonderful to understand a dream and to be able to respond to it, but better still, to be drawn into that presence of the Lord, into his world, so that we are more acquainted with the one who we love. And then at some point, we won't be looking through a glass dimly, we'll be seeing him face to face. But he expects us to work at this, because yes, dreams and visions, they're a bit of a discipline as well. And that's where a lot of Christians fall down. So expect as well, if you look at this series, expect as well to be told to spend some time in the Word of God, to spend some time looking at how he speaks individually to each one of us, and how you should deal with certain problems that might come up as a result of your dreams. But in any case, be blessed wherever you are, and we hope you will look further and enjoy it. God bless.